Today, I'm delighted to have Ana Gallardo, Entrepreneurial Development Team Leader from Scottish Enterprise, with me. Ana, thank you so much for coming along. It's lovely to see you. How are you?
Thank you, Maryanne. I'm very well. It's a pleasure to be here with you. It's always a pleasure to speak to you and a pleasure to be part of your podcast. Thank you very much for having me.
Scottish Enterprise is Scotland's national economic development agency, helping to grow the Scottish economy for the benefit of all, to create more quality jobs and a brighter future for every region. Now, Scottish Enterprise supports a huge number of businesses across central Scotland, and that support comes in many different formats, doesn't it? I wondered if you could give a thumbnail sketch of what Scottish Enterprise does, please, and perhaps just a couple of examples.
Of course, Maryanne, you've actually summarised it really well. In a nutshell, we do economic development. We work to grow Scotland's economy positively and inclusively so that we can all have a better quality of life. We collaborate with our public and our private partners to help businesses and communities in Scotland to thrive. Our goal, as you've said, is to create a more productive, resilient and competitive economy for Scotland. How we go about this, our remit is actually very wide, to supporting businesses directly and through the partnerships we have so that they achieve their full potential. You've said, it's true, we engage with many different types of businesses, engage with new businesses, early stage and more established businesses to help them realise opportunities and overcome challenges. We try to focus on activities that we believe add the most value and provide good returns. So some examples are business development and advice that we provide to companies so they can achieve growth, innovation support for new products, new services. We target capital and inward investment to bring further funding into Scotland for the benefit of Scottish entrepreneurs. And we also invest in infrastructure, physical, logistical, etc., that can increase the growth of regional innovation and can connect with business capabilities in and out of Scotland.
Scottish Enterprise does a lot.
We do.
There's
it's
a lot
very hard to summarize.
It's really amazing, the different impact that you have in so many different ways with so many different people. Now, my connection with Scottish Enterprise has been through programs that you have run. I've really enjoyed working with hundreds of CEOs and founders over many years. And so, for example, I think the first one was a program called Start Global, which was about helping companies to think big, big ambition. And my piece of that, of course, was about the communication skills, but also other programs like Entrepreneurial Academy, principally women, and also more recently working with companies who are pitching for venture capital investment and working with those management teams to achieve that. And I have been so struck by the diversity of the people and the businesses who have access to these programs. It's not always the founders, the entrepreneurs. Principally women was a very mixed group of women in leadership roles within an organization or who are heading for promotion. So I've also worked with you and your team as well a few years ago, which was really super as well. So you yourself have been on the other side of my video camera and gone through what so many other people have experienced. So just maybe a thumbnail sketch of what your role is as team leader of entrepreneurial development, Ana.
Yes, so I do have I'm extremely lucky. So I think I have one of the best jobs in Scottish Enterprise. I've got the pleasure to work with ambitious, innovative mindsets and new entrepreneurs that are wanting to make a difference to our economy and the way we live. So I am the team leader of the Entrepreneurial Development Team, and our focus is to build entrepreneurial capacity and entrepreneurial capability in the ecosystem in Scotland. Really, we want to have as many entrepreneurs as possible doing great things. Our goal is to establish a world-class ecosystem that is fully connected, where support can be accessed easily, where you need it, when you need it, how you need it, and by whom is needed, so that we have more entrepreneurs, as I said, but also more diverse entrepreneurs, more young people, more women, more people from different ethnic backgrounds, different abilities, etc. So because that is what really enriches our economy, and it allows us to found and lead the transformational businesses of the future. Mentioned some of our programs already, of our past programs. So Principal Women, Entrepreneurial Academy, Start Global, also Unlocking Ambition is kind of run as part of our team. We also, as you mentioned, deliver targeted support to businesses, including communication skills for them to be able to pitch and raise investment, etc. And we've had the pleasure to work with so many partners in the ecosystems, in the past. We've, of course, worked with you. We've worked with Informatics Ventures, Elevator, RSC, Young Enterprise Scotland, Scottish Edge, more recently Invest in Women, Men Ventures, Stag. And I hate doing this because then I always forget people.
You're connected to so many people, aren't you? It's it's so fascinating. As you say, you've just mentioned so many brilliant partners within the ecosystem, and you're connected to so many people, and so much has been achieved. Scottish Enterprise has made and is making such a huge impact. In this season of the Agile Speaker podcast, I'm hoping to really capture stories and experiences of people like yourself who I've worked with, and of course you've had experience of other people I've worked with within Scottish Enterprise programs. And I often talk about, as you know, how the word presentation often makes you think of more formal situations, the large audience slides, all eyes on you. But actually, I really believe in the need to be agile across all situations, formal, informal, 1 to 100, but also 1 to 1, team presentations and pitches. So being able to move from one thing to the next. So with that definition in mind, how do you see that being important for the founders you work with and the CEOs to be able to be agile? And how do you relate to that too?
So you're very right. I mean, being agile is critical. It's not a choice in business. It's fundamental for business growth. And you just can't survive as a high growth business if you're not agile. Scottish Enterprise fully recognises this in our support to businesses, even though we sometimes would like to be a little bit more agile ourselves. I really embrace that concept, and it's good to just dwell a little bit more on that. So to me, an agile speaker is someone that is able to maximize the power of communication in multiple settings, as you've said, an event, on a board, 1-to-1, and for multiple goals. So being able to maintain that clarity of the purpose of the narrative, but also flexing that narrative depending on audiences and the circumstances, and not losing the consistency of the message. So really, kind of the agile speaker is like the maximum impact speaker, and that's what we want to see in our entrepreneurs. When we are working with founders and early stage businesses all the time, so when we work with them and they have to convince investors, customers, employees, suppliers, etc., to really take the risk to engage with them, we quickly realize that giving them the skill to communicate effectively and efficiently is one of the most powerful and effective ways that we can help them.
Yeah.
So we did, you mentioned before, kind of one of the things that we've worked with us with, we started to do some work a few years ago to encourage greater volumes of post-seed investment in companies in Scotland. So really sort of attracting international investment, etc. It's a complex challenge, as you know. We need to consider availability of funding, availability of company pipeline, timings, etc. We did a lot of engagement with our own customers, and it was obvious that the key area we had to focus on was to support founders and leaders to get the skills and the training, not only to deliver successful investment pitches, but to engage in discussions with investors, to really go that extra mile in the long journey that it is to raise funds.
Yeah, and I think, if I just mention quickly there, I think one of the key things that I was noticing at that point was there are a lot of programs out there which, it's training people to do a 1-minute pitch or a 3-minute pitch or a 6-minute pitch. So honing and articulating their proposition, But that's not what's going to happen when you're in a meeting with an investor, is it? It might be the start of that, as I call it, sort of dating game.
Sure.
It might be the start of getting the introduction, but when they were actually going to be in the room with the investor, that was the key piece, wasn't it? It was, let's make sure that the agility is lying around them not walking in and then turning on a 10-minute pitch, but saying, okay, that is an important thing to have and we need a structured pitch, but you've got to be able to turn it into a conversation with them so they don't feel like they're being transmitted at.
Absolutely. And that was key in the feedback we were getting. We, even sort of when we work in providing support, it's also a learning journey. So you're building over the blocks that you've been constructing. And we do a lot of engagement with what does the market need? What do the entrepreneurs and the founders need? And it's like building a pyramid. So you do have to start with that elevator pitch, and then you start with your slightly longer pitch, because if you don't have that, you can't even open the door. But we have got to the point where we really appreciate that is just not enough. It's enough to open the door, but as you've said, raising investment, any kind of business relationship, is a courtship, if I can use that very sort of old-fashioned word, but it takes building trust, building rapport, especially in early stage where there is so much risk involved. You really have to believe in the company. You really have to believe in the founder and the idea. So that communicating part, flexibly, agilely, as you call it, is fundamental. And in this case, it made a massive difference, Maryanne. I mean, you might remember feedback and the results that we had about you were just mind-blowing. On investment alone, most of the companies that we supported through that initiative with you were successful in securing the funding, despite the difficulties that we've had with COVID, with the kind of economic upheaval, etc. So collectively, we're over 7.5 million. And the feedback from all of them, very wide types of businesses, Beringer, Earthblocks, Liberty, Crichton, Raps, Torterra, Amicus, Brewgooder, and more. Just incredible feedback. I'm pretty sure transformational was the most used word.
Yeah, I think we had 22 companies in the end. And I know in conversations I've been having with them that I think that figure is going up because, of course, they're all still raising money, and they will be in the next few years. So keep an eye on that.
Absolutely, that figure is going out exponentially, and it will grow even more. And it's not just the figure, Maryanne, it was the general sense of appreciation of how much those skills acquired transcended the initial goals of raising the investment. So raising investment was huge, but what they learned really made them able to elevate their business conversations in other settings so that they could really bring greater impact into their communications as a result of the training. So it went well beyond our expectations of investment. And we have seen that at EIE, Engage, Invest, Exploit. So been very lucky to be behind the curtain, to see how they progress, to be part in their pre-pitch panels, etc., and seeing the difference. And it's not only brought huge quality to the pitches, it's just given them that power to use the communication to engage wider and to even interrogate their own businesses better. So that is truly transformational. Yeah.
And also actually with the pitching to VCs program, for many of the companies that you mentioned, they brought along other people from the management team. So again, what I was saying earlier about the 1-minute pitch, 3-minute pitch, 6-minute pitch, often at these events and programs, there's only the founder, the CEO, who's delivering that. But the great thing with pitching to VCs was we were able to say, bring your management team. If there's 2 or 3 of you who would be in the room with those investors, then you all need to be able to take part in the pitch and handle the Q&A. And, and actually RAB Microfluidics, I noticed that when they released, the press release came out about their recent raise, it was both Timmy Labby and Jamie Grant, and they were both part of this program. So, that's the other thing that's been brilliant, is them being able to spread the training across to more individuals as well. thinking about the work that I did with yourself and your team, are there any particular anecdotes or experiences that you've had looking back where you feel that some of the skills that we worked on had come in helpful?
Many. It's hard to pick, because it really kind of, the training gets ingrained into so many things. So that sort of agile communication just kind of becomes a part of everything you do. As a team, we were kind of a new team that kind of had got together. Many of us had limited experience in presenting at events, board, influencing audiences. Some of them had close to zero experience, but we had a strong remit to increase the visibility of SE, to increase our engagement with the community of entrepreneurs, etc. So we all had to really own that message and being to deliver it ourselves. So we went to quite a large number of events in the months that followed the training, and we had the full team participating at different levels. As I said, many of my teams had very limited experience, and they would just not have been able to do it without the training. It also, and this is slightly different, but it also gave them the tools to stretch themselves to build successful partner relationships, which was new to them, which in turn delivered great impact to founders and entrepreneurs that we work with. Some went on to secure new roles, so they stepped up to new challenges. And again, that kernel of changing the mindset about communication, the communication skills, was very important in the process. For me in particular, I had the opportunity to run a number of workshops and facilitate panels at a few top level events in Scotland, did sessions with founders, did judging, etc. And for all of them, the training came in very, very useful. Probably what I've found the most useful, and I still find very useful to date, is how to flex quickly and how to adapt in different situations. So probably when I'm most or least at ease is in front of an audience.
Yeah.
So things like responding to questions at events, when I have to change from output mode to engaging, being able to change to that quickly. The training was fundamental. Responding to questions can sometimes be difficult. Sometimes questions can be a bit challenging. And remembering a lot of your advice about using eye contact, the tone, the inflections, even the body language, so that you're building rapport, you're really connecting with the individual, authenticity, but also not forgetting the rest of the audience. I still find that very valuable.
Good.
And probably my little sort of most nerve-wracking example, and when I really most appreciated to have had the benefit of the training, was having to fill in for my wonderful director at the time at an expert panel on the main stage of Startup Summit. I was so nervous.
And wasn't it quite last minute that you had to?
It was absolutely last minute. So they were called in for jury duty. So it was absolutely last. So yes, it was very nerve-wracking. But again, the skills I had learned about your voice, the speed, the breathing, the self-awareness, the pauses, and really the emphasis on preparation and ongoing preparation really kind of carried me through it. So not pretty sure I'm going to say I enjoyed it. I probably didn't go as far as I enjoyed it. But, I would welcome doing something similar, and I would, it gave me a boost of confidence as well.
There's nothing like being pushed out of your comfort zone and then being able to handle it, and I think that's where a lot of these skills come into play. Suddenly you can really tap into it and think, okay, I know how to do this. I can do it. Yeah. And then it feels good. It's an achievement, isn't it? Afterwards, you can learn a lot from it. Brilliant. So I've asked everybody that I've interviewed for 3 takeaways so that listeners can learn from you and what sort of things have really stuck in your mind, what you feel is really important. And then hopefully these are things that people can take away and apply themselves. So have you got maybe 3 takeaways that you can leave our listeners with?
I'll try. And pearls of wisdom. I really struggle, 3, that magic number, and I can always think of 5 or 2, but it's not. No, I think I've got my 3 sort of go to. The first one, it's probably a cliche, but it is preparation. It's really hard to overemphasize how important preparation is, and you really drill that in when we've worked with you and when we've seen you working with others. Whether you're preparing for a big event, a board meeting, an important pitch, or even a one-to-one meeting, just always be prepared. Know yourself, so know what kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone. Know your audience, know the environment, make use of the setting, and practice those key messages that you really need to get across. The conversation, the board, the communication is not the goal. It's a tool to the goal. So really kind of drill that inside. Think of possible eventualities. Prepare your notes. So again, if you're out of your comfort zone, you've got something to lie in. Practice in front of a mirror. Found that very useful, even for a meeting. If you're not fully at ease, record yourself if you can. Time yourself. Practice in front of others if you can. And when you think you have it, then just go and prep some more. Yeah. It will be just very useful for that event that you're preparing in particular, but it also will make the next one and the next one and the next one a lot easier. So prepping is key. And prepping is a lot of thinking as well. So a lot of my prepping time is thinking about it and visualizing it in my head. And so I'll be doing other things. I'll kind of be outside walking, and I will be sort of structuring in my head and tend to write things down a lot later, because I've done the whole thing in my mind and use kind of the learnings from before. So prepping is my first.
Yeah. Good. And it's, as you say, the more you do it, it makes the next one easier, because then the format. So for example, using notes, if you do it every single time, then it doesn't become a big deal when there's some big event up ahead of you. It's just a normal thing that you do anyway.
Yes, it really demystifies that big speaking thing. It sort of turns into something that you can do. It's a skill you have.
Brilliant.
Shall I go for the second one?
Yeah, let's go for number 2.
Yeah, for number 2, it's around time. I don't know. I was trying to come up with a snappy way of kind of silence is key or power of silence. Not very sure, but everything around to do with timing, which has been. I'm a talker, and a very very powerful tool for me has been how to use pauses and how to use that silence, and to remember that you can own that timing. I mean, to a certain extent, if you've got 10 minutes to talk, you can't overdo that, but you can really own that silence. And we're talking of silences that are fractions of a second. They just feel longer in your head, because the time perception is always skewed when you're slightly nervous and you're slightly not quite at ease. So build time for pauses when you speak, when you present. It'll give you time to collect yourself, to avoid losing focus, and it'll also give the audience a chance to breathe and to follow you. You can use them to add texture as well to the narrative, to emphasize, and even to sort of separate topics so you can be more impactful as you speak. Also, and there's a slightly different setting, I also like to remember to own that timing when it's a two-way discussion that is maybe kind of slightly difficult, challenging. So there are kind of areas there to cover. If you're answering questions, for example, at an event, again, you're responding to a panel. So just use that time to, again, center yourself, arrange your thoughts, but also to portray your thoughts cohesively. You might feel you need to answer immediately, but you don't. Think of how you feel when you're on the other side. So use time wisely. That's
great. Brilliant. Love it. Yeah, it's, as you say, it's about allowing the listeners to digest what you say, but it's also such a huge benefit to you yourself in not diving into an answer, as you said. Not blurting out the first thing that comes to mind, but just having a couple of moments to consider the best way to deliver that message to the audience. Great. Okay. And what's the third and final one, please?
The last one, third and final, probably is the biggest one, and it's a bit of an overarching one. But yeah, great learning for me is to just treat every engagement as a meaningful communication opportunity. It's not just about blurting something out, but it's what happens after that communication has taken place. So that way you're just continuously prepping, continuously testing, and you're improving your message to different audiences in different settings. Every engagement is a communication opportunity. Your narrative will get more effective, more targeted. You'll learn what works well, when, and you'll gain in confidence because you go into every engagement with a very conscious speaker mindset. So
I love that conscious speaker. That's a really, I feel like that conscious speaker, maybe that needs to be the follow-up to Agile Speaker.
Maybe. I think there's something there. There's something there, but kind of, it's just kind of treating it with purpose. So that, it just means you're always ready to deliver at short notice because you can put yourself in that conscious speaker mindset. Yeah. It means you can flex comfortably as well. So you can flex the communication style, you can sort of flex your language and the emphasis depending on the circumstances. Again, without losing that consistency and that quality. And especially if you can be a little bit of a nervous speaker, so I'm on that back, it kind of it just helps with your confidence. Sometimes you're at an event and sometimes a stage fright can jump on you unexpectedly. And if you're going in with that sort of, I'm consciously not just delivering a message, but engaging in this, there is kind of a lot more than me just blurting out. It helps with your confidence. It kind of helps you to center. You feel more at ease because you're speaking purposely. So you just stop seeing presenting as something you do over there with your slides and your speaker notes, and just realize that it's just another version of what you're already doing every time you communicate on a daily basis. And that for me is just very powerful.
It certainly is. I think that's great food for thought, that last one. It's really, really brilliant. It's the conscious speaker. It's being really mindful, isn't it? Being very present. In the situation that you're in.
And treat every engagement consciously. I think actually there is a lot in there kind of about how your business relationships will improve from it, because it's about listening as well. So it's a full exchange with a greater purpose than just communicating.
And I feel that our lives are all so busy, aren't we? And everybody has so many channels of communication. This is so critical, as you say, in business relationships, when you are speaking to somebody else or pitching to them or discussing something with them, having that purpose, being very mindful of what's happening right there and then in the moment, that really is very powerful. That's a brilliant third takeaway. Thank you, Ana. Really
Thank
great.
you, Maryanne, because that was a takeaway from training with you and learning from you and just reflecting on everything that was there. So thank you.
Fantastic. Well, it's been so great to speak to you, Ana. I've really enjoyed hearing your, thoughts and feelings and experiences and anecdotes, and then those 3 brilliant takeaways at the end. Really, really interesting to hear your thoughts on all of this. So thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate you joining me on the interview today.
Thank you very much, Maryanne. It's always a pleasure.
Brilliant. Okay, so just to wrap up, if anybody who's listening would like to find out more about Scottish Enterprise, please go to www.scottish-enterprise.com. And finally, if you want to learn how to be a presenter and be agile and conscious across all of your critical communications, please go to www.maryannejohnston.co.uk for information on our courses or to get in touch.